On the morning of Saturday, the 24th of April, Deadly Gaming was enjoying a delicious breakfast at home with his girlfriend. They were cooking a mouth-watering meal consisting of succulent steak, flavorful spaghetti, and a side of sweet corn, all complemented by a refreshing glass of orange juice. It was a perfect way to start the day. Deadly Gaming skillfully sizzled the steak and spaghetti on the stove, the aroma of the food filling the air around them. His girlfriend set the table with plates and utensils, preparing everything for their breakfast. Meanwhile, the corn simmered in a pot on the back burner, its fragrance adding to the tantalizing symphony of smells in the kitchen. Deadly Gaming's girlfriend, Toriel from Undertale, joined in setting the table along with him. She carefully placed the cutlery and glasses on the table, ensuring everything was in place for their breakfast. Her gentle demeanor added to the cozy atmosphere in the kitchen, making the whole experience even more enjoyable. Deadly Gaming effortlessly cut the steak into bite-sized slices with the two swords he had received as a gift from his best friend Avatar Thanos. Using his ninja skills, he tossed the steak into the air and chopped it up with great precision, each slice falling onto the plate in perfect form. The fluid motion and quick action demonstrated his mastery over the blades, and it was a sight to behold in the kitchen. The slices of steak, cut with such precision by Deadly Gaming, landed on the waiting plates on top of the spaghetti. The sight of the juicy meat mixed with the fragrant pasta was enough to make anyone's mouth water. Deadly Gaming smiled with satisfaction, proud of his skills and eagerness to dig into the meal. Toriel couldn't help but clap for Deadly Gaming's impressive display of skill and precision in cutting the steak. Her eyes sparkled with admiration, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth and appreciation for his talent. She smiled at him affectionately, making Deadly Gaming feel even more at ease and proud of his accomplishment. Toriel's admiration for Deadly Gaming's majestic abilities knew no bounds. Seeing him demonstrate his skills with the swords and cut the steak with such precision only served to reinforce her love and appreciation for him. It made her feel safe and secure, knowing that she had such a strong and talented boyfriend by her side. She often found herself in awe of his abilities, and it never failed to put a smile on her face. With the breakfast now ready, Deadly Gaming and Toriel sat down at the table together. They took a moment to appreciate the delicious meal before them, the aromas of the steak, spaghetti, and corn, intermingling in a delightful symphony. They then began to eat, enjoying the flavors and the warmth of the food, talking and laughing as they savored every bite. Deadly Gaming took a bite of the steak, its tenderness and juiciness making it melt in his mouth. The spaghetti was perfectly cooked, its flavors complemented by the subtle sweetness of the corn that accompanied it. Toriel as well was enjoying her meal, sipping on her orange juice and stealing glances at Deadly Gaming with affection in her eyes. As they continued to eat, the conversation between Deadly Gaming and Toriel was light and cheerful, each of them sharing tidbits of their lives and thoughts. They talked about their plans for the day, their work and hobbies, and the things they were looking forward to. The atmosphere was relaxed and enjoyable, making the breakfast feel like a small but significant moment of connection between the two of them. After finishing their meal, Deadly Gaming and Toriel decided to watch a movie to further unwind. They chose the 1996 film, Twister, renowned for its thrilling portrayal of the fury and power of tornadoes. They snuggled together on the couch, Toriel holding a bowl of popcorn in her lap, as they began the movie. As they watched the movie, both Deadly Gaming and Toriel were thoroughly impressed by the special effects and sound design used in the portrayal of the tornadoes. They couldn't help but feel a shiver run down their spines as the tornadoes came alive on screen, their devastating power and mesmerizing beauty captured so vividly in the film. The sound of the tornadoes' roaring winds and the destruction they caused filled the room, creating an almost immersive experience for the pair. They found themselves on the edge of their seats, anxiously waiting to see what would happen next as the characters battled against the fearsome forces of nature. After the movie ended, Deadly Gaming and Toriel felt a surge of excitement and inspiration from the events they had just witnessed on screen. The film had ignited a spark of thrill and curiosity in them, and they decided on a spur-of-the-moment adventure to go tornado chasing together in Deadly Gaming's new Jeep, which was a gift from his best friend, Avatar Thanos. With their decision made, Deadly Gaming and Toriel hastily got to work. packing essentials for their upcoming adventure. They gathered 2 water bottles to stay hydrated during the chase, 2 video cameras with tripods to capture any potential tornadoes on film, and other weather instruments, such as a laptop with a weather radar, to monitor the conditions and help them find suitable areas for potential tornado sightings. In addition to the essential equipment, Deadly Gaming and Toriel decided to further prepare the Jeep for the adventure ahead. They attached some wind instruments to the exterior of the vehicle, such as anemometers and wind vanes, which would be crucial in measuring wind speeds and direction while they were chasing tornadoes. Toriel skillfully situated the laptop on the dashboard of the Jeep, securely fastening it in place to ensure it was stable and easily accessible during the chase. She powered it on and brought up the weather radar, which would provide vital information about the atmospheric conditions as they searched for potential tornado activity. Deadly Gaming and Toriel eagerly checked the radar, their eyes scanning the screen for any promising signs of tornado activity. To their delight, they spotted a storm brewing a few miles west of town, one that displayed all the telltale signs of potentially spinning up an EF5 tornado. Their hearts beat with excitement and a mix of trepidation at the impending adventure that lay before them. With their equipment in place and the weather radar showing promising signs, Deadly Gaming and Toriel buckled up and hit the road, driving their Jeep westward to the location of the approaching storm. The anticipation was palpable as they sped along the road, the air thick with excitement and a hint of nervousness at the thought of facing such a powerful force of nature up close. Deadly Gaming navigated the Jeep out of town and onto the open roads of the countryside. As they drove further and further, the scenery became increasingly rural, with sprawling fields and vast expanses of land stretching in all directions. The sky grew darker and more ominous, the clouds gathering in the distance and the wind picking up, signaling the approach of the storm they were hunting. As they neared the storm, Deadly Gaming and Toriel shared a tender moment, knowing that the adventure they were about to embark on could be dangerous. They turned to each other and shared a brief but passionate kiss for good luck, their eyes filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. As they drove closer to the storm, Deadly Gaming and Toriel braced themselves for the intense conditions about to hit. The rain started to pour, the wind howled, and the sky grew increasingly dark. They pushed onward, determined to find the potential EF5 tornado indicated on the radar. The Jeep continued to forge forward through the storm, the wind buffeting the vehicle and the rain pelting it relentlessly. The couple was on high alert, keeping a close eye on the radar as they drove, searching for any signs of the tornado on the ground or in the swirling clouds above. As they continued deeper into the storm, the Jeep eventually broke through the outer rain curtain, leaving the heavy rain behind. Deadly Gaming and Toriel now found themselves in the heart of the storm, the wind picking up in intensity and the skies growing even darker. They knew they were getting closer to the potential EF5 tornado, and their excitement grew alongside their nerves. As the Jeep rumbled through the field, Deadly Gaming and Toriel kept their gazes fixed on the surroundings, scanning the area intently, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive tornado. The tall grasses of the field swayed wildly in the strong winds, making it difficult to distinguish any specific features amidst the chaotic swirl of the storm. As they continued their search, Deadly Gaming's eyes suddenly caught sight of something in the distance to the north. He could make out the distinctive shape of a large, powerful tornado tearing through the field, its funnel cloud extending from the ground to the clouds above. His heart skipped a beat, and he pointed out the tornado to Toriel, who gasped at the sight. Eager to capture the incredible sight, Deadly Gaming and Toriel quickly pulled over to the side of the road, parking the Jeep with haste. They jumped out, grabbing their video cameras as they went, and hurried towards the field of pumpkins where the EF5 tornado was ripping through. The tornado uprooted trees and destroyed everything in its path, but Deadly Gaming and Toriel's attention was focused solely on capturing the rare and devastating spectacle on film. The powerful EF5 tornado continued its destructive path, sweeping up hundreds of pumpkins in its wake as it rampaged through the field. The orange orb spun through the air, caught up in the maelstrom of dust and debris, creating a chaotic and mesmerizing spectacle of nature's fury. Deadly Gaming and Toriel recorded the scene, awed and enthralled by the strength and beauty of the tornado they had sought out. The tornado, now having ravaged the field of pumpkins, crossed into the adjacent field of berry bushes, continuing its relentless path of destruction. The bushes, laden with berries, were no match for the tornado's incredible power. They were torn up from the ground, leaves and berries flying in every direction, adding a vibrant, almost surreal touch to the otherwise devastating scene. With its path of destruction continuing, the tornado tore up a fence in its way, sending pieces of wood and wire flying in every direction. Then, with a deafening roar, it slammed into an old farm, reducing buildings and structures to rubble in an instant. Deadly Gaming and Toriel watched in awe and terror, their video cameras capturing the intense moment of devastation. The tornado showed no mercy as it tore through the old farm, ripping apart the barn and the adjacent silo with its ruthless force. The structures, which had once stood strong against the elements, were now reduced to shattered wood and twisted metal, consumed by the whirlwind of destruction. As the barn and silo were torn apart by the tornado's relentless fury, parts of the structures were thrown into the air, sent hurtling through the air like missiles. Others spun wildly within the twister itself, caught in the vortex of wind and debris, adding to the chaotic spectacle of the tornado's destructive power. The tornado continued its path of havoc, tearing through the old farmhouse, reducing it to splinters in a moment. After crossing the road, it made its way towards an abandoned town, its powerful funnel cloud still firmly in place and the debris whirling around it. Deadly Gaming and Toriel, still filming the scene, couldn't believe the scale of destruction they were witnessing. As the tornado reached the edge of the abandoned town, it slammed into the old stores along the main street, its devastating force shattering windows and tearing apart the structures. The walls were ripped off, and the contents of the stores were reduced to rubble and debris, tossed around in the whirlwind of destruction. Once the first row of stores were annihilated, Deadly Gaming and Toriel wasted no time getting back into the Jeep. They knew that they needed to stay close to the tornado to continue filming and documenting it, so they started up the engine and pursued the EF5 as it moved further into the abandoned town. The tornado continued its destructive path as Deadly Gaming and Toriel followed it closely in their Jeep. It next struck an old gas station, ripping apart the aging structure and sending clouds of dust and debris into the air. The station's pumps were torn from the ground, and several abandoned cars were picked up and swirled around in the swirling vortex of the powerful twister. As the tornado continued its rampage, the old gas station suffered another blow. The gas tanks were struck by the debris, causing them to explode with a loud blast, adding even more fire and chaos to the scene. Deadly Gaming and Toriel watched in awe and fear as the gas station was reduced to rubble, the explosion adding to the already daunting scale of the tornado's destruction. Having demolished the gas station, the tornado pressed forward, striking the old restaurants and houses in its path. The restaurants were reduced to rubble, their walls and structures smashed into splinters. The houses also suffered the same fate, with their roofs torn off, and the walls and foundations left in tatters. Deadly Gaming and Toriel followed closely in the Jeep, filming the spectacle of destruction, the tornado's power seemingly unstoppable. The tornado's destructive path continued as it made its way into a park, uprooting trees and scattering debris in its wake. The banks, old and abandoned, were the next targets as the tornado struck them as well, ripping apart the structures and sending chunks of brick and concrete flying into the air. Deadly Gaming and Toriel followed the tornado closely, their video cameras capturing the scene of devastation with every passing moment. As the banks were torn apart by the tornado's immense power, coins and bags of cash were sent flying into the air, swirling around within the twister alongside the debris. Some coins and bags of cash were tossed through the air, while others spun wildly within the maelstrom of wind and destruction. Deadly Gaming and Toriel recorded the scene, the spectacle of money being tossed about in the chaos, adding an unexpected and intriguing element to the already terrifying event. As bags of cash and coins were flung through the air by the tornado, some of them made their way into the trunk of Deadly Gaming's Jeep, landing in a chaotic jumble. Deadly Gaming and Toriel were taken aback at the unexpected occurrence, the bags and bags of cash now adding a strange and unexpected element to their tornado-chasing adventure. Deadly Gaming and Toriel couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the unexpected discovery of the bags of cash and coins in their trunk. It was as if the tornado had given them a prize or payment for chasing it, a token of gratitude, or perhaps just a strange twist of fate. They couldn't help but feel a mix of disbelief and excitement at the unusual turn of events, continuing to follow the violent storm as it continued its path of destruction. As they assessed the amount of cash and coins in the trunk, Deadly Gaming and Toriel were surprised to find it totaled up to about $9,250. It was a staggering amount of money, and they couldn't help but wonder the tornado's mysterious decision to deposit such a large sum in their trunk. The chase continued as the powerful tornado moved forward, slamming into some old warehouses that held old presidential votes, bills, and contracts. The warehouses were quickly reduced to rubble, the delicate and historic documents flying through the air alongside the debris and other wreckage. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to follow the twister, capturing the scene of the ancient paperwork swirling violently in the chaotic storm. The tornado's path extended to a nearby library, where it ripped apart the building, sending ancient books and manuscripts flying in the strong winds. The library's shelves collapsed, and centuries-old knowledge was torn to shreds as the powerful storm continued its destructive path. Deadly Gaming and Toriel followed intently, their video cameras capturing the whirlwind of historical records being destroyed by the ferocious tornado. The tornado continued its relentless path of devastation, reaching an old railroad freight yard next. The train cars, some rusted and abandoned, were torn apart, their metal frames twisted and bent as if they were made of tinfoil. Deadly Gaming and Toriel followed the storm closely, filming the sight of the train cars being tossed about and their contents spilling onto the ground, adding to the chaotic scene. As the tornado struck the railroad freight yard, it released a devastating chain reaction. The tanker cars exploded, sending fire and smoke into the air. Cattle cars were torn apart, their wooden structures no match for the tornado's immense force. Boxcars were crushed, their metal frames collapsing under the pressure. Hopper cars were toppled over, spilling their contents onto the ground. Other freight cars were swept up and hurled into old buildings, adding to the chaos and destruction. The tornado's path extended further into the railroad yard, striking the surrounding buildings, broken signals, and equipment. The aged structures crumbled under the storm's strength. The useless signals were torn down, and the old equipment was tossed about like toys in the hands of an angry giant. Deadly Gaming and Toriel followed the tornado closely, capturing the scene of the railroad yard's wreckage, their cameras recording the destruction of the once functional equipment and buildings. As the tornado made its way through the railroad yard, it uprooted long-forgotten train tracks, their rusted metal twisted and deformed by the storm's force. The tracks were hurled through the air, landing in a tangled mess of metal, their original purpose and function long forgotten in the chaos of the moment. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to follow the tornado, their video cameras rolling and the documentary taking on a more dramatic and cataclysmic tone. The powerful storm had wreaked havoc on the abandoned town, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Now, the tornado continued its path, moving out of the town and into the countryside beyond, where new landscapes waited to face its wrath. As the tornado exited the abandoned town, it moved back into the surrounding fields, its path now traversing open landscapes. The once peaceful fields were about to become the next victims of the storm's wrathful power. The tornado, relentless in its destructive path, moved on to an old orchard filled with apple bushes. It uprooted and shredded the bushes, sending leaves and scattered apples flying through the air. Then, in a final display of power, the tornado slammed into the building at the edge of the orchard, reducing it to rubble and adding to the growing trail of devastation in its wake. As the tornado struck the building, its force was unyielding. The roof was ripped off in a single powerful motion, leaving the structure exposed to the turbulent winds. Then, with a deafening roar, the walls were swept up, their wooden framing twisting and snapping as easily as twigs in a bonfire. Deadly Gaming and Toriel watched in a mix of terror and awe as the tornado tore apart the building, the once strong walls now reduced to a swirling mass of debris and broken wood. They knew they had captured a powerful and destructive moment on film, forever preserving the memory of this storm's incredible strength. For an hour, Deadly Gaming and Toriel followed the tornado closely, their jeep moving at a steady pace as they continued to document the storm's destruction. They had witnessed the power and might of the EF-5 firsthand, and their video cameras had captured every moment of the spectacle. Finally, the tornado began to die out, its once powerful funnel cloud slowly fading away as it lost its intensity. As the tornado lost its strength and died out, the storm clouds that had hung overhead gradually began to disperse. The once dark and ominous sky started to lighten, and the air felt calmer and less turbulent. Deadly Gaming and Toriel stood quietly, watching as the storm clouds faded away, leaving behind only a few wisps of white in the now clearing sky. The storm was over, but the memories and footage of the incredible tornado would remain etched in Deadly Gaming and Toriel's minds forever. They had witnessed nature's raw power and had captured it on camera for the world to see. As the storm clouds faded away and the sky became clear once more, Deadly Gaming and Toriel felt a sudden pang of hunger. They checked the time and realized that it was lunchtime, and they were both famished. Looking back at the Jeep's trunk, they remembered the bags of cash and coins that had landed there during the chase. However, those wouldn't fill their stomachs. With their tummies rumbling, Deadly Gaming and Toriel decided to head to a nearby town further west in search of a quick bite to eat. They climbed into the Jeep, ready to take a break and refuel after the intense chase they had just endured. As they moved to the town, they thought about the incredible tornado they had just witnessed, and the footage they had captured on camera. Deadly Gaming started the Jeep's engine and steered the vehicle back onto the main road, continuing their journey further west. The countryside rolled by as they moved, the landscape gradually shifting from open fields to more developed areas. The sun shone above, casting warm rays on the landscape, a stark contrast to the fierce tornado they had just experienced. As they drove, Deadly Gaming and Toriel shared a moment of exhilaration and relief from the intense chase they had just been through. They looked at each other, their eyes sparkling with excitement, and leaned in for a kiss. It was a brief moment of joy and tenderness, a celebration of their shared experience, and the incredible natural phenomenon they had just witnessed. As they entered the town, Deadly Gaming steered the Jeep towards a local burger joint with a drive-thru. Seeing that they needed some food after the day's events, they decided on a quick and easy meal. After pulling up to the drive-thru, they waited for a moment before a voice came through the intercom, announcing that they were ready to take their order. Deadly Gaming and Toriel were so famished that they quickly placed an impressively large order. They shouted out 6 burgers, 5 nuggets, 5 fries, 5 wings, 6 tater tots, 7 pies, 8 tenders, and 6 chicken sandwiches, along with the most important item on the list, 20 salads, a mix of both fruit and vegetables. To balance out the meal, they also ordered 8 protein shakes, emphasizing their commitment to a healthy diet. To their surprise, the total for the large order came to a shockingly affordable amount, only $10. Deadly Gaming and Toriel were relieved and pleasantly taken aback by the reasonable cost, especially considering the sheer size of their impromptu feast. Deadly Gaming and Toriel collected their food from the drive-thru window and pulled into the parking lot of the burger joint. The aroma of the hot, freshly prepared burgers and crispy fries filled the air as they parked in an empty spot. It was time to enjoy their well-deserved meal after the long day of chasing the tornado and capturing the footage. They spread out their order on the hood of the Jeep, its shiny surface transforming into a makeshift dining table. The burgers, nuggets, fries, wings, tater tots, pies, tenders, chicken sandwiches, and salads were all neatly arranged. In the midst of the array of food, the protein shakes sat, adding an element of balanced nutrition to the indulgent feast. Deadly Gaming and Toriel couldn't help but laugh at the sheer amount of food they had ordered, and the sight of it all spread out on the Jeep hood. They both grabbed a burger and took a bite, savoring the juicy flavors and satisfying their overwhelming hunger. They shared glances and smiles, knowing that they needed this meal after the adrenaline-fueled chase they had just been through. As Deadly Gaming and Toriel sat in the parking lot, enjoying their meal, they felt a sense of contentment and satisfaction. The burgers, nuggets, fries, wings, tater tots, pies, tenders, chicken sandwiches, and salads were all satisfying their hunger, and the protein shakes provided a touch of healthy balance. They shared laughter and stories between bites, the thrill of the chase still fresh in their minds, but the present moment filled with satisfaction and the simple pleasure of good food with good company. After polishing off their meal, Deadly Gaming and Toriel found themselves feeling full and content. In the midst of the empty parking lot, the air still carrying the scent of their feast, they moved towards each other and embraced in a warm, lingering hug. The intensity and excitement of the day's chase melted away in the comfort of their embrace, and they leaned in for a series of soft, tender kisses, relishing the blissful moment together. The sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. The parking lot was slowly becoming more deserted, and the crickets started to chirp in the background. Deadly Gaming and Toriel were still wrapped in each other's arms, their lips still intertwined in a series of passionate kisses. They took a momentary pause, gazing into each other's eyes, feeling the depth of their connection in the peaceful afterglow of their shared meal. Having shared a moment of intimacy and relaxation, Deadly Gaming and Toriel got back into the Jeep, feeling refreshed and ready for the next part of their adventure. They checked the weather forecast and confirmed that a storm was brewing further northwest, just in time for 1 p.m. Armed with their video equipment and their experiences from the last chase, they set their sights on the next potential encounter with the forces of nature. As they drove, the landscape of wide-open fields unfolded before them. The sky was clear and blue, casting a warm glow on the lush, green fields stretching out as far as the eye could see. Deadly Gaming and Toriel took a moment to appreciate the natural beauty of the scenery, feeling a sense of peace and tranquility as they continued their journey northwest towards the next storm. The fields were swaying gently in the breeze, as the grasses and wildflowers moved in a graceful dance. The sun was shining brightly, casting a warm light on the rolling hills, and adding to the idyllic atmosphere. Deadly Gaming and Toriel took in the tranquil scenery, enjoying the sense of calm and beauty in the vast, open lands stretching out around them. As they continued their drive, Deadly Gaming and Toriel's eyes caught sight of something in the distance. A storm was forming on the horizon, its dark, ominous clouds a stark contrast to the azure sky. The sight of the approaching storm sent a thrill through them, their adrenaline beginning to build in anticipation of the incredible sight they were about to witness. With the storm looming in the distance, Deadly Gaming and Toriel sped up, determined to reach it before it passed. As they entered the storm's outer fringes, they could feel the wind pick up, and the temperature dropped. The sky darkened, and the trees around them began to bend under the force of the wind. As they drove further into the storm, the wind started to howl more fiercely, and rain started to fall. Deadly Gaming and Toriel could feel the storm's power as they continued their pursuit, their hearts pounding with excitement and a hint of trepidation. The weather forecast had predicted an extraordinary sight, a tornado classified as an EF6, even stronger than the powerful EF5 they had witnessed earlier. Deadly Gaming could feel Toriel grip his hand tighter as excitement and anticipation filled the Jeep. The thought of capturing an even more intense tornado on camera was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. The rain became heavier, falling in sheets and reducing visibility. The wind howled louder, and the sky grew darker as they moved deeper into the storm. Deadly Gaming and Toriel were aware of the risks, but the prospect of seeing and filming an EF6 tornado was too alluring to resist. The Jeep continued its journey through the storm, now moving past the rain curtain and deeper into the storm's heart. The wind and rain were stronger than ever, and the sky was so dark that it seemed like night had fallen, despite it still being afternoon. Deadly Gaming and Toriel were both excited and a bit terrified as they continued on their quest to find the impending EF6 tornado. Suddenly, in the distance to their south, Deadly Gaming and Toriel spotted the enormous, monstrous form of an EF6 tornado. The funnel cloud stretched from the ground to the sky, its size dwarfing the storm clouds around it. The sight was both breathtaking and terrifying, the sheer power and magnitude of the EF6 tornado on display in the open field before them. They could feel the ground shaking as the tornado approached, and the roar of the wind was deafening. Deadly Gaming and Toriel knew this was the moment they had been waiting for, an opportunity to witness and record history in the making. Despite the danger, they steeled themselves and prepared to capture the tornado on camera, knowing that this was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. With their hearts pounding in their chests, Deadly Gaming and Toriel pulled over the Jeep, bringing it to a stop beside the field where the EF6 tornado was tearing through the landscape. They quickly grabbed their video cameras, their hands slightly shaking with excitement and a touch of fear. The EF6 tornado continued its path of destruction, ripping up everything in its path. Trees groaned and snapped as they were uprooted. The brush and bushes were torn to shreds, and an old outhouse was obliterated in seconds. Even the sunflowers, standing tall and bright just moments before, were now just broken stalks and scattered petals flying about in the storm's fury. As the EF6 tornado moved, it slammed into a nearby picnic area, reducing the tables and benches to splinters. Picnic supplies were scattered and carried away by the storm's forceful winds. It was a violent display of the tornado's power, showing no mercy to the area it was passing through. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to film, their cameras capturing the raw power and destructive force of the EF6 tornado as it moved through the picnic area. They could feel the ground shake beneath their feet, the wind howling in their ears as they recorded the devastating impact of the storm. The EF6 tornado continued its destructive path, now making its way towards an abandoned military base lying in its path. The sturdy buildings and structures stood no chance against the storm's might. They were quickly reduced to rubble, the tornado's force ripping through the base like a hot knife through butter. The powerful EF6 tornado did not slow down as it reached the military base. The barbed wire fence, designed to keep trespassers out, was torn like tissue paper under the storm's force. Continuing on its path, the tornado crossed over the runway, stirring up a cloud of dust and debris in its wake. The massive tornado bore down on the tower of the abandoned military base like a wrecking ball, its force so great that the structure didn't stand a chance. The tower trembled under the impact, and then it collapsed, the twisted steel and concrete falling to the ground in a heap of rubble. Caught in the storm's path, the abandoned military jets parked on the runway were helpless against the EF6 tornado. The tornado's forceful winds lifted the planes into the air like toys, and they were tossed around mercilessly, their wings and bodies battered before being tossed aside like litter. Deadly Gaming and Toriel watched in awe and a bit of horror as the military jets were picked up and thrown around by the EF6 tornado. They continued to film, capturing the images of the powerful storm as it laid waste to the abandoned military base. The tanks stationed at the military base were no match for the EF6 tornado. The storm's winds lifted the massive vehicles off the ground, sending them flying through the air like rag dolls. The tanks rolled and tumbled, their heavy armor no protection against the storm's awesome force. With its destructive path continuing, the EF6 tornado targeted the aircraft hangars next. The storm's fury smashed into the large structures, causing them to explode in a shower of sparks and debris. The offices and storage buildings, once standing tall, were quickly reduced to rubble under the storm's relentless bombardment. The tornado's power showed no signs of weakening, and it continued to pick up more military vehicles, throwing them into the air as if they were nothing. Tanks, jets, and other military vehicles were added to the debris field, their metal frames twisted and mangled beyond recognition by the storm's overwhelming force. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued filming, their eyes wide and hearts pounding at the unbelievable sight unfolding before them. They could feel the ground shaking with each impact, and the wind howled around them as they captured the powerful EF6 tornado as it tore through the abandoned military base, destroying everything in its path. Having wreaked havoc on the military base, the powerful EF6 tornado set its sights on a nearby old prison. The storm's force slammed into the old prison, ripping through the structure without any resistance. The prison walls, once built to confine, were no match for the natural disaster's awesome might. The EF6 tornado struck the concrete walls around the prison's outdoor area mercilessly. The walls, once standing tall and secure, were now shattered and crumbling under the force of the storm. The concrete rubble scattered across the ground in the wake of the tornado's destruction. Deadly Gaming and Toriel kept filming, their cameras capturing the brutal display of power as the EF6 tornado tore apart the prison's outdoor area. The sound of the storm was deafening, and the force of the wind made it difficult for them to even stand their ground. They knew they were witnessing an extraordinary and dangerous moment in nature's fury. With the prison outdoor area now in ruins, the EF6 tornado turned its destructive path to the main prison buildings. The storm's force slammed into the prison structure, its powerful winds tearing through the building like paper. The prison walls crumbled under the storm's wrath, the building collapsing into a heap of rubble. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to film, their cameras capturing the breathtaking yet terrifying sight of the EF6 tornado demolishing the prison. The sound of the storm was loud, and the wind blew fiercely, but they were too focused on the event unfolding before them to pay much attention to anything else. The destruction caused by the tornado was unlike anything they had ever seen before. The prison buildings, that had once stood tall and strong, now lay in ruin at the hands of the EF6 tornado. The structure had crumbled into a heap of rubble under the storm's immense power, leaving only debris scattered across the once structured yard. The mighty EF6 tornado didn't stop at demolishing the main prison buildings. It then set its sights on the surrounding concrete walls and individual prison cells, ripping them apart with little effort. The storm's force plowed through the structures, leaving nothing but rubble in its wake. The sight of the prison complex being torn apart in such a short amount of time was both devastating and awe-inspiring. Deadly Gaming and Toriel kept filming, their cameras focusing on the destruction left behind by the EF6 tornado. They knew they were witnessing something historical, yet at the same time, they knew that this was a dangerous and powerful force of nature. The EF6 tornado continued its path of destruction, moving from the old prison to an abandoned amusement park that lay ahead. The storm's force slammed into the park, tearing through its attractions with ease. The once vibrant park now lay in ruins, its rides and games shredded by the storm's unstoppable force. The amusement park, with its tents and shacks, was no match for the EF6 tornado's fury. The storm swept through the area, picking up the fabric structures and flinging them into the air like ragdolls. The tents were shredded, the shacks smashed beyond recognition, and nothing was left standing in the EF6 tornado's path. The EF6 tornado continued to tear through the abandoned amusement park, laying waste to any rides in its path. The once exciting and fun-inducing rides were now reduced to twisted and uprooted pieces of metal and wood, scattered across the ground as if they were nothing more than toys. The sight of the amusement park's rides, including merry-go-rounds, roller coasters, and other structures, being torn to pieces by the EF6 tornado was both impressive and disheartening. The storm's power was unstoppable, and it continued its reign of destruction, leaving nothing in the abandoned park intact. Deadly Gaming and Toriel kept filming, their cameras capturing the extent of the storm's fury as it wrecked the amusement park. The EF6 tornado continued to tear through the abandoned amusement park, its destructive path claiming more victims. The small food courts and restaurants, once offering delicious treats, were torn apart, their structures and tables being thrown into the air by the storm's force. The remaining rides in the park, having already been battered and broken, were dealt their final blow by the mighty tornado, their bright lights and colors now reduced to twisted metal and splintered wood. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to film, capturing the devastating extent of the EF6 tornado's destruction. They could see the once vibrant amusement park now in ruins, destroyed by the powerful and ruthless tornado. The sight was both awe-inspiring and tragic, a reminder of the power of nature and the fragility of human creations. After leaving the abandoned amusement park in ruins, the EF6 tornado moved back into the open fields, its path leaving only destruction in its wake. The once pristine landscape was now littered with the debris left behind by the storm, evidence of the tornado's incredible but dangerous power. The EF6 tornado, its appetite for destruction not yet satiated, now moved on from the empty field towards its next target, an old, abandoned airport. The storm's force slammed into the airport, its powerful winds ripping through the unguarded hangars and old runways. As the EF6 tornado crossed onto the runway of the old airport, it tore through the barbed wire fence with ease, its force leaving nothing but twisted metal in its wake. The runway, once the site of airplanes landing and taking off, was now the place where the storm would demonstrate its overwhelming might. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to film, their cameras capturing the powerful event as the EF6 tornado tore onto the runway, its force tearing everything in its path to shreds. The sight of the mighty tornado moving across the runway, leaving destruction in its wake, was both fearsome and magnificent. The mighty EF6 tornado continued its rampage across the runway, lifting several planes into the air with its powerful winds. The once sturdy aircraft, which had been left abandoned at the airport, were now helpless in the storm's path, their bodies being flung high into the air like lifeless toys. The tornado, with its relentless force, tore into the massive airport building. The storm's powerful wind and flying debris smashed through the structure, ripping apart its sturdy walls and shattering its windows. The airport building, once standing tall and imposing, now trembled under the EF6 tornado's might, the sound of its structure being torn apart thundering through the air. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to film, their cameras focusing on the incredible and destructive sight unfolding before them. The massive airport building, a once important and busy structure, was now coming apart at the seams under the relentless power of the mighty EF6 tornado. The EF6 tornado continued its path of destruction, heading into the parking lot of the old airport. The once organized parking lot, filled with abandoned cars, was no match for the storm's power. The cars, left behind and forgotten, were now tossed around like toys, their bodies being flipped and smashed into each other by the storm's mighty winds. Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to film, their hearts pounding as they witnessed the unbelievable scene unfolding before them. The sight of the abandoned cars being picked up and flung around like paper was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a display of the raw power and intensity of the EF6 tornado. The abandoned cars, once left to rot in the parking lot, now became victims of the storm. The tornado's winds ripped through the cars, smashing their windshields and denting their hoods, leaving them battered and broken in the now rubble-filled parking lot. After laying waste to the abandoned cars, the EF6 tornado set its sights on an old office building that stood on the outskirts of the airport. The storm's force slammed into the building, its powerful winds tearing through the structure with ease. The office building, which had been standing tall and strong for many years, now trembled under the storm's onslaught. Deadly Gaming and Toriel could see the building's windows shattering and the walls beginning to crumble. The storm's destruction was relentless, and the office building was no match for its power. As the tornado continued its assault on the office building, its powerful winds picked up various items from inside the building, such as papers, printers, office supplies, and other items. These items were then swirled around in the storm's powerful vortex, adding to the already devastating display of chaos and destruction. Deadly Gaming and Toriel could only watch in awe and horror as the tornado swept up office items and added them to its swirling whirlwind. The sight of the powerful storm destroying everything in its path was both impressive and devastating. The tornado continued its destruction, its wrath now focused on the office building's roofs. With a powerful gust, the storm tore up the roofs, sending shingles and debris flying into the air. The windows, too, were not spared from the storm's force, and they shattered and smashed under the impact. Deadly Gaming and Toriel captured the destruction of the office building in their cameras, their eyes widening as they watched the powerful storm tear the building apart. The building, once a symbol of stability and order, now lay in tatters, battered and broken by the EF6 tornado's relentless force. The EF6 tornado, still displaying its incredible power, moved on from the decimated office building and headed towards an abandoned courthouse. The courthouse, once a symbol of justice and law, now stood in the path of nature's fury. With its unstoppable force, the EF6 tornado unleashed its fury on the courthouse, tearing through the building with ease. The storm's winds smashed through the walls and shattered the windows, leaving nothing but carnage in its wake. The once imposing courthouse was now reduced to a heap of rubble and broken bricks. Deadly Gaming and Toriel filmed the destruction of the courthouse in awe and disbelief. They could see the once regal structure now reduced to a pile of rubble, the destruction wrought by the EF6 tornado leaving them speechless. The scene was both awe-inspiring and saddening. The courthouse, a place where justice and laws were enforced, now lay in ruins, a reminder of nature's unmatched power and the fragility of human creations. After witnessing the incredible and destructive events unfold, Deadly Gaming and Toriel continued to follow the EF6 tornado for another 3 hours. The storm's path took them through different areas, including another field, before it finally began to show signs of weakening, eventually dying out in the open field. As the EF6 tornado dissipated, Deadly Gaming and Toriel were left standing in the field, their hearts pounding with exhilaration and disbelief at what they had just witnessed. The tornado, with its incredible strength and destructive power, had left a trail of destruction in its wake, leaving nothing untouched in its path. Deadly Gaming and Toriel were ecstatic. They had captured some of the most amazing footage of the EF6 tornado, showcasing its incredible strength and destructive power. They knew that this footage would be invaluable to meteorologists, and they couldn't wait to share it with them and contribute to the scientific understanding of tornadoes. As they traveled back home, Deadly Gaming and Toriel also took the opportunity to finish their lunch meal from earlier in the day. The excitement of the chase and the adrenaline rush from witnessing the powerful tornado had them feeling hungry, and they devoured the remaining food with a newfound appreciation for the simple things in life. The journey back home was uneventful compared to the earlier events, and they relished in the simple pleasure of driving down the road and enjoying their lunch. They talked about the impact the footage would have on the scientific community, and how they had just experienced something truly unique and extraordinary. After several hours of driving, Deadly Gaming and Toriel finally arrived back home. The journey had been long and eventful, but they were happy to be back safe and sound. They spent the remainder of the evening relaxing and reflecting on the incredible tornado they had witnessed and the footage they now possessed, which would surely make headlines in the meteorological world. As they entered the house, Deadly Gaming and Toriel immediately headed upstairs to prepare for bed. The long day, filled with excitement and adrenaline, had taken its toll on them, and they were in need of some rest. They changed into their casual clothes and went about their nightly routine, looking forward to a good night's sleep after their extraordinary adventure. As they prepared for bed, Deadly Gaming and Toriel changed into their comfortable pajamas. They picked out their favorite pairs and took a moment to feel the soft fabric against their skin. The exhaustion from the day's events was beginning to set in, and they were looking forward to the comfort and relaxation that their pajamas offered. Once in their pajamas, Deadly Gaming and Toriel curled up in bed together, cuddling closely. The soft sheets and blankets enveloped them, providing a sense of safety and comfort after the day's wild ride. They snuggled to each other, feeling the warmth of each other's presence, and gradually began to relax as they prepared to drift off into a peaceful sleep. As they lay in bed together, Deadly Gaming and Toriel shared a soft and affectionate kiss. The gesture was a silent expression of their love and care for each other, a moment of tenderness and closeness before they drifts off into sleep. They closed their eyes, holding each other close, and let the sound of each other's breathing lull them into a restful slumber.